Chapter 61. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the cave, Qin Feng held the relic of the Buddha in one hand and the bamboo slips of saints in the other. One is a Buddhist sacred object, and the other is a Taoist sacred object. If it weren't for the inability to broadcast live in the cave, I'm afraid the entire ancient city would be boiling. It was also because Xiaobai put the bamboo slips of saints in Qin Feng's hands that the Buddha's relic suddenly calmed down, and they were no longer as violent as before. It was as if he was intimidated by the bamboo slips of a sage, and he didn't dare to act rashly anymore. Everything in the world is indeed intergenerated and restrained. Qin Feng got a respite, and used the 33-day good fortune formula with ease, controlling the energy infiltrated from the Buddha's relic to pour into his limbs and bones. Roar. The golden dragon pattern on Qin Feng's body gave out a dragon chant, frantically absorbing the energy in the Buddha's relic. With the blessing of this authentic Buddhist power, the power of Dui Tianlong will be further improved. Boom. 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 A series of dull sounds crazily sounded from Qin Feng's body. His body began to tremble uncontrollably, and an indescribable pain spread from his limbs, as if his bones were broken and his flesh and blood were torn apart. However, relying on the abnormal self-healing ability of the 33-day good fortune art, the broken bones and torn flesh were healed again, and his physical body became stronger and stronger through the reorganization. This feeling is wonderful, but the more wonderful it is, the more pain you have to bear. It's almost time to break through the spirit martial realm. Qin Feng felt the surging energy contained in his body, and planned to directly break through the Lingwu realm in one go. Different from the release of spiritual power in the transcendent realm, the spiritual martial realm is the transformation of spiritual power. According to the different martial arts practiced, the transformed forms are also different. Some people transform into wolves, some transform into tigers, and some transform into a giant Buddha like Feng Chang. Now his heaven-slashing sword art has no form. The form of Dai sword Ju is a big river, and the form of Dui Tianlong is a flying dragon in the sky. Since several of his martial arts are % compatible, there is no need to waste time on spiritual power transformation. As long as he breaks through the spiritual martial arts realm, he can directly use martial arts. This is why it is said that self-created martial arts are the strongest martial arts, and the one that suits you is the best. It seems to be all right. Seeing that Qin Feng's face gradually calmed down, Xiaobai was deeply relieved, and almost became a stray rabbit that no one wanted. Tread, tread, tread. Suddenly there was a rush of footsteps outside the cave, which lifted Xiaobai's heart that had just let go. No, someone is here. Xiaobai looked at Qin Feng, who was at the critical moment of cultivation, and stood up resolutely to block the entrance of the cave. It's Qin Feng's rabbit. Hundreds of men came from outside the cave, and their cultivation was above the 5th level of Lingwu. They also heard about Qin Feng's defeat of Yijian, and they also knew that Huanggu's Tianjiao was by no means a vain name, but they still couldn't resist the temptation of Qin Feng's points. It's just that compared with other Tianjiao, Qin Feng seems to be the easiest to attack. His age and cultivation level are not superior, and he fought Yijian to the death, and then broke hundreds of eggs. I believe he has not much strength at this time. My master, Yin, and 2 younger sisters are discussing a billion-dollar business inside. I have an opinion for you. Hurry up and leave. Xiaobai seemed as stable as an old dog, but he panicked in his heart, and also I don't know if I can scare them off. Talk about business. Hundreds of millions of big business. Returned 2 young ladies. Just like Qin Feng, who is crazy about carrying a sow with him, he can talk about big business, and he can guess what he is doing inside with his ass. In addition to envy in the eyes of everyone in the audience, they also began to have a little retreat in their hearts. Joke. The title of King of Eggs was not blown out, it was earned by Qin Feng breaking nearly 200 eggs in one day. If Qin Feng was really disturbed to discuss business, they could only be referred to as sisters in the future. Can Qin Feng's rabbit be trusted? I think he is probably healing inside. Someone immediately questioned. It's just that before he could speak, Xiaobai suddenly disappeared in place. Whoosh. The sharp sound of breaking the wind shocked everyone in the audience, only to see Xiaobai suddenly appearing in front of the questioner, and without giving the other party time to react, he arranged for him to cut off his children and grandchildren with one move. With a bang, chickens fly and eggs hit. The opponent's eyes were wide open, and the piercing pain swept through his body, and he fell to the ground and shrank into a prawn, accompanied by the tragic cry of losing his brother. What? It's the power of space. This rabbit has the power of space. Everyone in the audience backed away in fright, looking at Xiaobai with vigilant eyes. The power of space is an extremely special ability, which can suddenly appear in one place like a ghost, and only those who are powerful in the human race can cultivate these supernatural powers, but the monster race is different. Some monsters can master supernatural powers when they are born. Generally, this kind of monsters will be called aliens among monsters. It's just that they didn't expect that this cute little rabbit raised by Qin Feng would actually be a strange species among monsters, and was born with the power of space. My rabbit is finished. Who agrees, and who opposes? Xiaobai raised his prestige and stretched out his hand to grab it. He took out a carrot from his own space and put it in his mouth, pulling wildly like a big guy rabbit. At this time, the screen outside the venue also switched to Xiaobai, giving him a big close-up. Isn't this Qin Feng's rabbit? This rabbit is so cute, but why don't I hate it at all? As crazy as Qin Feng, as expected of a rabbit raised by Qin Feng. The monster is different, no wonder Qin Feng brought it with him. Everyone at the scene couldn't help but look at each other, thinking that Xiaobai was bluffing them. If Qin Feng was really discussing business inside, it would be impossible for him to remain silent or say nothing. The more he had this expression, the more they felt that he was delaying time. Why can't there be more trust between humans and rabbits? Seeing that the other party was not fooled, Xiaobai knew that the next step was to work hard. Whoosh! Xiaobai chose to strike first, and used the power of space again. Move, kick, smash eggs, all in one go. Why is this rabbit as shameless as Qin Feng? Be confident and remove the why. That the faces of the people around showed horror, for fear that they would be the next victim. It's just that although Xiaobai's performance is very strong, and he is also very proficient in using the power of space, no one who dares to participate in the life and death knockout competition has a few brushes. Soon someone found Xiaobai's weakness and quickly rushed to the cave where Qin Feng was. Not good. Seeing this, Xiaobai quickly returned to help, and was also fooled by the opponent. It's now. The opponent accurately calculated the time and place of Xiaobai's appearance, and the moment Xiaobai flashed over, the punch the size of a sandbag sent a burst of crazy output to Xiaobai. Entering the battlefield of life and death, it is either life or death, and there is no mercy. What? Xiaobai screamed again and again after being beaten, and his white hair was stained red with blood. This. The audience outside the stadium watched with great concern, praying that the little guy would survive. Bang! Xiaobai was sent flying out heavily, and fell to the ground motionless, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Next, it's Qin Feng. That the other party's eyes couldn't stop being excited. As long as he went in and killed Qin Feng, everything would be stable. It's just that at this time, a certain dog author forced Xiaobai to add a play, in order to prove that he is not a waste rabbit, and saw him trembling and crawling up again. Even though he was beaten with only one breath left, he still staggered and used his petite body to block the cave, and said in a weak voice with great firmness, "Only, as long as my rabbit is here, you will never even think about entering the cave." Chapter 62. The sky did not give birth to me. Qin Xiaobai. Swordsmanship is like a long night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This little guy. Seeing Xiaobai's unyielding eyes, Luna was shocked. Others don't know what kind of virtue this rabbit is, but she has watched it grow up little by little with her own eyes. It can be said that it is a rabbit with no integrity, and the first wish of the rabbit is to sell Qin Feng to the young lady for money. She has always been very curious. What is the use of Qin Feng raising such an unscrupulous rabbit? Maybe he will sell the main silver when he really fights. Now she finally understands that. Lack of integrity does not mean lack of loyalty. This rabbit is really good at dealing with it, and it dares to go to it when something happens. Similarly, the audience outside the arena were not moved when they saw Xiaobai's persistence. Even if they knew it was a death, they still had to delay time for their lord, and their petite body seemed extremely tall at this moment. Just like you still want to protect Qin Feng. The people around taunted ruthlessly, preparing to finish killing Qin Feng and celebrate with Xiaobai's wine. Is it funny? Xiaobai weakly and slowly raised his little head, a sharp sword glow suddenly burst out from his eyes. What happened? The faces of the people around changed, and they felt the change in Xiaobai. If Xiaobai before was a cute little rabbit, Xiaobai now is a sharp sword about to be unsheathed. There is no sharpness, the rabbit sword is one. Sword is coming. Xiaobai shouted imposingly like a rainbow, and slowly raised his little hand trembling, buzz. The crisp sound of the sword's cry came from the cave, and a flash of sword light rushed out of the cave like a meteor. As a rabbit raised by Qin Feng, he not only learned his cheap way, but also learned his sword way. In addition, Qin Feng never had any reservations about it, and he never shied away from it every time he comprehended the way of swordsmanship, and even took the initiative to teach it how to be a peerless sword rabbit. There are also auxiliary methods such as the sage's bamboo slips to open up, the spiritual pet carrot to open up wisdom, etc. Over time, it has comprehended its own way of swordsmanship, and even Qin Feng's sky sword can be easily summoned. I saw the sky sword flying out of the cave, turning into 9 small swords floating around Xiaobai. It's the 9 swords of the sky. The faces of the people around changed suddenly, and they shouted in their hearts that something big was going to happen. They still know a little about Qin Feng's 9 swords in the sky. He got it from Emperor Daxia by shameless means, and it became Qin Feng's exclusive sword after that. I also know that Qin Feng usually uses the 9 swords in one state, but when he disassembles the 9 swords, it means that he will become the egg-beating king. Now this rabbit has turned the sky Excalibur into 9 small swords. They don't believe that the rabbit raised by Qin Feng can have any integrity. Qin Xiaobai was not born to me. The way of swordsmanship is like a long night. Xiaobai remembered what Qin Feng said. It was like a scion transforming into a roar after being beaten. The sword energy around him also began to boil fiercely, and the 9 small swords seemed to have received an order, turning into meteor sword lights and rushing towards the opposite side. Damn it, I was actually made blood boil by a rabbit. That the atmosphere of the audience outside the arena was instantly ignited, and their minds were full of the phrase Qin Xiaobai, I was not born. The way of swords is like a long night through the ages. What domineering, what arrogance. As expected of the rabbit raised by Qin Feng, he not only learned his cheapness, but also his madness. Luna's expression was suddenly in a trance, and his thoughts suddenly returned to 7 years ago. She remembered that when she met Qin Feng for the first time, Qin Feng yelled out the similar words, the top of the fairy, proud of the world, if there is me, Qin Feng, there will be heaven. But the next sentence, Sister Luna, save me, made her almost say unsteady mind. Danger. The faces of the people besieging Xiaobai changed drastically. Seeing the 9 swords approaching quickly, they hurriedly dodged. It's just that they obviously underestimated Xiaobai's combat power. Even though his cultivation base is the same as Qin Feng's 9th level extraordinary, it has epic level talent, and there is no pressure to challenge beyond the level. Even at the 9th level of Lingwu, he can still fight for a few rounds. Call out, call out, call out. There was a sound of rapid egg breaking, accompanied by screams. As expected of a rabbit raised by Qin Feng, that the audience outside couldn't help swallowing, and subconsciously protected their brother. Qin Feng, what kind of person is he? Luna found out that in the past 7 years, she couldn't understand Qin Feng. There is the ruthlessness of digging out the bones of the younger brother, the unrepentant attitude towards the elders of the family, the daring of the Princess Daxia, and all kinds of shameless means without limits. But such an unscrupulous Qin Feng was able to live peacefully in the Moon God Palace for 7 years, and he was able to hide his true strength in front of her, and even cultivated a peerless sword. Rabbit like Xiaobai, bang. Chongkong 9 swords was sent flying by a force, and the whole chaotic scene was brought under control in an instant. I saw a man in black armor descending from the sky, holding a war halberd domineeringly sideways and flying the 9 swords in the sky, and the unique breath fluctuations of Taoist monks were exuding from his body. It's Qian Jun. That everyone in the audience breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that their brother was saved. Although this Qian Jun is not a genius, but with his first-level Taoist cultivation, he is still capable of competing for the qualification to qualify. It shouldn't be a big problem to suppress Xiaobai, a rogue rabbit. Entering the Dao realm. Xiaobai's eyelids trembled slightly, and he said in his heart that something was wrong. It is true that it can leapfrog challenges, even at the 9th level of Lingwu. It is not afraid at all, but not all rabbits are called Qin Feng. There are so many perverted methods, and they can kill them whenever they want to enter the Dao realm. In the cave, Qin Feng also sensed the battle outside, and seized the time to break through to the Lingwu realm, but he didn't want to have a good reincarnation and be disturbed like Feng Chang. At this time, the Buddha's relic in Qin Feng's hands has been integrated into his body, and the human body has also undergone a reborn transformation. The qi and blood became extremely vigorous, churning endlessly like a long rolling river. Bones and flesh and blood gradually filled with divine radiance, and the whole body was shrouded in a layer of sacred light. The celestial overlord body has been initially activated, and the power of the physical body has been further strengthened. It's now. Qin Feng's eyes suddenly opened, and in the black eyes, there was a gleam that seemed to be real, and a wave of shocking energy surged around him, and behind him was a river of sword energy that was surging. The sound of huge waves startled everyone outside the cave. It's Qin Feng. There was a look of panic on everyone's face, and there was a feeling that a fierce beast was about to come out of the cage. They didn't know what the sound of the huge waves was, but they could clearly sense that Qin Feng had broken through the spirit martial realm. Qin Feng, who is at the 9th level of extraordinary level, can defeat with a single sword, and after breaking through, Qin Feng has no choice but to despise the entire battlefield of life and death. Someone shouted with tearing eyes, "What are you waiting for? Rush in and kill Qin Feng, otherwise we will all become sisters when he leaves the customs. If you have a bet, you don't necessarily lose. Let's go together. Today is the day to kill that bitch Qin Feng." Everyone's eyes were red, and they were all gamblers. They risked their lives to participate in the life and death knockout competition, and they have already put life and death aside. Now that they can successfully qualify by killing Qin Feng, they will not come again when the opportunity is not lost. Wait a moment. The voice of Qian Jun's domineering side leakage sounded, and he jumped over the crowd with a halberd in hand and came to the front. His aura was fully opened, like an invincible god of war. So strong. Xiaobai's face was extremely solemn, and he was ready to fight to the death. The boss of Qianjun is mighty. The morale of the people around suddenly rose, as if they had a backbone. Plop. Qianjun knelt down at the entrance of the cave without any hesitation, and said with all his body cast, under the Qianjun, "The admiration for boss Qin Feng is like a torrential river, and it is like the yellow river flooding out of control. Today, boss Qin Feng will not accept it. Little brother will surely kneel and die outside this cave." Chapter 63 Daughter-in-law is better than someone else's family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quiet. The audience was silent. Everyone took off their pants and went to uprising with you, but you didn't even want to kneel and lick it, Nima. After all, it was still a wrong payment. Ah. Xiaobai was also dumbfounded in shock, and a big shit popped up in his heart. It believes that it has learned the essence of cheap characters after following Qin Feng for so many years, but who knows that there are green hills outside the mountains and brothels outside the buildings, and a cheap is better than a cheap. Those idiots. Qian Jun didn't care about other people's eyes, and knelt outside the cave with all his body cast down. It wasn't that he didn't have the shame to kneel and lick Qin Feng, but that he felt unprecedented fear from the sound of the huge waves just now. If he guessed correctly, it should be an extremely terrifying sword art, or a sword art that is, % compatible with Qin Feng. As we all know, if you want Dzogchen skills above the holy level, you need to create them yourself, and Qin Feng created the terrifying god-level sword art of cutting the sky and drawing the sword by himself when he was 8 years old. He really didn't dare to imagine, with Qin Feng's current kendo attainments, what kind of terrifying sword formulas could be created. Kneeling and licking the strong is his advantage. At this time, the sound of the huge waves dissipated slowly, and the cave gradually calmed down. Not good. There was a look of panic on the faces of everyone, knowing that Qin Feng was about to leave the customs. Glancing at Xiaobai, and then at Qianjun, they knew that it was impossible to kill Qin Feng, and now they had only 36 tricks to go. Beat my rabbit, want to leave without leaving anything. Qin Feng's stern voice came from the cave, and the knocked down 9 swords of the sky began to tremble violently, bursting out with cold sword lights, which were many times stronger than before. Run! Someone yelled in horror and began to flee desperately in all directions. However, the 9 swords of the sky had already soared into the sky, turning into 9 tiny beams of sword light piercing the void. It is different from the use of Qin Feng's extraordinary 9th level before. After breaking through the first level of Lingwu realm, the control range of the 9 swords can reach thousands of meters away. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, Sui Yongji, for getting 1000 villain points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, Sui Yongji, for getting 1000 villain points. Along with the miserable cry, the sound of system upgrading also kept ringing. Oh, it's so fucking cheap, that the audience outside the stadium couldn't bear to look directly at it, and really didn't know how to describe Qin Feng, call him cruel. He is the only one who ranks in the top, without killing people in the life and death elimination competition. Not only this life and death elimination competition, but also the previous life and death elimination competitions have no case of ranking in the top, without killing people. Let's say he's not cruel. Nearly, boys became sisters because of him, which is also a case that has never appeared in previous life and death knockout competitions. 2 horrible, beads of sweat appeared on Qian Jun's forehead, and the sound of swords whistling by his ears continued. He had already overestimated Qin Feng's horror as much as possible, but he still underestimated. The 9 swords of the sky in Qin Feng's hands are not at the same level as Xiaobai's, except for Tianjiao who has entered the Taoist realm. I am afraid that no one can resist his 9 swords. Fortunately, I kneel fast. Qian Jun wiped the cold sweat off his brow, feeling extremely fortunate in his heart, at this time. An extremely glamorous voice sounded, sure. That I saw a beautiful young lady in fluttering white clothes floating in mid-air stepping on a flying sword. Seeing such a cruel scene, I couldn't help raising my eyebrows, and quickly pinched out a finger to trap the 9 swords that were passing through rapidly. It's Fairy Yulan. The man below seemed to have seen some great savior, and hurriedly knelt down and begged this young lady named Yulan for help. She is Yulan. The eyes of the male spectators outside the arena lit up, and they exclaimed in their hearts that she was indeed a peerless beauty. Yulan is known to everyone in the entire Inua dynasty. She is the daughter of Lan Imo, one of the 4 ancient beauties along with Moon God, and her biological father is unknown. All I know is that Lan Imo, one of the 4 beauties 100 years ago, suddenly disappeared, and when she returned to the Inua dynasty 100 years later, she was already pregnant and gave birth to her daughter Yulan not long after. It is rumored that Yulan has a mysterious and Yin body that is rarely seen in thousands of years. She has shown extremely terrifying talents since she was a child, and she is a first-class peerless beauty. Seeing it today really deserves its reputation. If they remember correctly, they shouldn't remember wrongly. Yulan's current cultivation base has reached the 2nd level of Taoism, and she is the most popular champion in this life and death knockout competition. At this time, Qin Feng in the cave froze in place, and the system's prompt sound came from his ear. Ding dong, found the epic chosen daughter. The chosen daughter? Mistress. Qin Feng's face became strange, and he was somewhat unresponsive. Since he awakened the system, even the 2nd brother met a total of 3 chosen sons together, and among them, Ziyuan and Princess Nanfeng appeared beside them. He always thought that these stunning women were heroines, but he didn't expect that they could only be regarded as female protagonists, and the real heroine was someone else. Whose daughter-in-law will she be? Qin Feng murmured to himself, saying that he was good at it. Yulan Lu frowned slightly, and said coldly, killing people is nothing more than nodding. Why do you humiliate others like this? If I'm not mistaken, the only person who likes to use such obscene methods is Huang Gu, the first-day arrogant Qin Feng. Your Excellency Qin Feng. Call out, call out, call out. Chongkong 9 swords broke free from the restraints and flew into the cave at high speed. Soon, Qin Feng dressed in white, like a young master, came from the cave with a sword in the sky. making people see him and couldn't help saying in his heart, Mozhang is like jade, and your master is unparalleled in this world. But when he thought of his methods, he couldn't help but bawled, bitch. You are Qin Feng. Yulan Lu couldn't help frowning slightly, she really couldn't associate this beautiful boy with the egg-beating king. The girl has identified the wrong person, Qin Feng said politely, I'm in Shezhong, bah, I'm in Qinchu. Qinchu out of Lan is better than Qinchu out of Lan. Qinchu. Yulan. Everyone in the audience tasted it carefully, calling it smelly and shameless. You are strong. Yulan was indifferent to Qin Feng's molesting, and could clearly feel Qin Feng's terror, because Qin Feng has just broken through to the spirit martial realm, he has not fully controlled his aura. From the aura he leaked, it can be seen that he is much, much stronger than practitioners of the same level. It can be seen that during his 7 years in Luna Palace, although he did not make much breakthrough in cultivation, he polished his foundation to an extremely abnormal level, which also indicates that he will be able to go further and more steadily in the future. Where do you mean? Qin Feng began to look at Yulanlai, and had to admit that his daughter-in-law was better than someone else's. 36 Rabbit, the snow-capped mountains and mountains seem to have an amazing elasticity. If you use Guilong to enter the sea and lead the fire to Guiyuan to fight her, it will definitely blow up the system. Damn! The eyes of everyone in the audience were full of contempt, and they could all see that Qin Feng was greedy for his body. Chapter 64. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sure enough, it's the same as the rumors say, lowly. Yulan's pretty face blushed lightly, feeling uncomfortable being stared at by Qin Feng. Although she knew that her beauty was very attractive to those men, she still couldn't stand Qin Feng's fiery eyes, as if she might swallow her up at any time. Oh, Mommy Rabbit, you're finally out. Xiaobai sat down on the ground exhausted, his eyelids became heavier and heavier, and finally he couldn't hold on and fell asleep. Although it has an epic level talent, it is a rabbit with an extraordinary 9th level cultivation. Facing so many spiritual martial arts, and even masters at the Taoist level, it is all based on a belief in it. Seeing Qin Feng coming out now, he finally couldn't hold on anymore. Go to sleep. Qin Feng gently lifted Xiaobai from the ground. Unlike the white rabbits raised at home before, Xiaobai's white hair was almost stained red with blood, and he was dozens of times worse than a stray rabbit, but he didn't feel disgusted at all, and put Xiaobai into his arms. Even if the blood stained the white clothes red, he didn't care. Boss. Qianjun rushed over to flatter him, and played the dog leg to the fullest. Bitch. The audience's eyes were full of contempt. They didn't expect him to be such a strong army. He obviously has a cultivation base of the first level of Taoism, and the armor he wears and the halberd he holds are not ordinary, but he ran to kneel and lick Qin Feng without any morals, still licking so smoothly, so naturally. Qianjun didn't mind this at all, but thought they were childish and ridiculous. They all thought that participating in the life and death knockout competition would change their lives against the sky, but they didn't know that they were just cannon fodder to highlight Tianjiao. He has a very thorough understanding of this matter, and instead of facing all kinds of pressure in reality in the future, it is better to become a pendant on Qin Feng's thigh as soon as possible. The rivers and lakes are not about fighting and killing. The rivers and lakes are about the ways of the world. Qin Feng, as the son of the moon god Palace, coupled with his unique perverted talent, is destined to be extraordinary in the future. Only by hugging his thigh now can he change his fate against the sky. Dog leg. Qin Feng looked at Qianjun, and didn't have much resistance to him. Accepting younger brothers is a very normal thing for the strong. If you can't encounter any big or small things, you have to do it yourself. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for subduing the dog-legged little brother and obtaining the immortal slave seal. Immortal slave seal, there is no level. If you hit the surrendered younger brother, you can let him share half of the host's combat power bonus. If you give birth to a betrayal heart, you will be burned by the flames of hell and die. Note, special physique, comprehension realm does not count as a bonus. Good stuff. Qin Feng's eyes lit up immediately, and he couldn't stand it in his heart, even if his celestial dominant body, invincible sword heart, and level, sword intent cannot be added. the aura of the great emperor's talent has a tenfold increase, which means that the opponent can enjoy a fivefold increase in combat power, not to mention non-talented people like Qianjun. Even those talented people who can resist the temptation of 5 times the combat power bonus, the price is never to betray. It seems that a decent gentleman like him can't find a reason to betray. Qin Feng rolled his eyes at Qianjun, and asked softly, "Are you really planning to follow me?" "Yes." Qianjun nodded seriously, definitely not joking. With his talent, he can indeed compete for the qualification to qualify, but after qualifying, he is still not the bottom of the existence, and he will be a part-time job in the future. Since they are all part-time jobs, why not find yourself a potential boss? It is good. A mysterious golden rune condensed on Qin Feng's fingertips. Before Qianjun could react, he slapped his forehead with a slap. The golden rune was faintly visible on the forehead, and then disappeared. Boom. The energy in Qianjun's body suddenly began to vent, the ground around him was shaken open, and the aura of the whole person was instantly increased by 4 or 5 times. What is that? Whether it was the people present, the audience outside the venue, or the Emperor of the 6 Paths, all of them were not calm. Just putting a mark on Qianjun's forehead can increase the combat power by more than 5 times. If this happens to a certain powerful person, they will not be surprised, but Qin Feng has just broken through the first level of Lingwu, which is a whole realm lower than Qianjun. Is this poisonous milk? Why are you fat for? Qianjun was also stunned in place, and his heart turned into a huge wave. He could clearly feel the surging power in his body, which was indeed 5 times stronger. Although he didn't feel the joy of being the emperor of Qin Feng, he definitely entered the ranks of Tianjiao. No. He's going to lick this boss. Even if Jesus comes, it's useless. Qin Feng ignored everyone's surprise and looked up at Yulan, who was stepping on a flying sword in the air, thinking that if he could imprint her with the immortal slave seal, he should be able to get a lot of rewards. However, the immortal news seal is easy to use, and the prerequisite is that you have to voluntarily give up resistance. If you use a strong one, it will have no effect. This is the number one pride in the ancient times. Yulan's face in the air was extremely solemn, and he felt the terror from the number one arrogance in ancient times. Gollum. Everyone in the audience swallowed, and there was a kind of calm before the storm. There have been legends since ancient times that whenever the world of great competition comes, the arrogance of all walks of life will spring up like mushrooms with huge luck, and as long as they defeat each other, they can plunder the opponent's luck. The final victor can bring the great fortune of the world to attack the legendary ultimate. Ever since Qin Feng yelled the phrase 7 years ago that the top of the celestial being is proud of the world, if I have Qin Feng, there will be heaven. He has the title of Tianjiao in the ancient times, and he is naturally the first choice for all the Tianjiao to challenge. Now the world is uncertain, you and I are both dark horses. Originally, Yulan wanted to challenge Qin Feng before he had grown up, but the method just now forced her to think about whether to challenge Qin Feng now. As for the duel between Qin Feng and Yijian, she has already learned from other people, with the blessing of invincible sword heart and level, sword intent, Zhantian swordsmanship is terrifying enough, but Supreme Bone's heavenly Jiguang is even more terrifying. Directly defeating Yijian's body of heavenly sword, I heard that this is not Qin Feng's complete body. His double pupils are currently only using basic abilities in battle, but even basic abilities such as slowing down speed make people feel its horror. I don't know if he has developed other abilities of double pupils during these 7 years. Probably not. Yulan Lu frowned slightly, thinking it was impossible. Qin Feng has only been 15 years old since he was born. It is unprecedented for anyone who can comprehend the invincible sword heart and the 3rd-level sword intent. In addition, his god Jiguang is so terrifying that he will never be able to spare time to develop the new ability of double pupils. In other words, the battle between Qin Feng and Yijian was already his full strength, otherwise he would not have risked his breakthrough in a place like the battlefield of life and death. The more Yulan thought about it, the more she felt it was possible, and she seemed to think that defeating Qin Feng was a sure thing. On the opposite side, Qin Feng is a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking, but cares about the kitchen, bathroom and bathroom. Chapter 65 Dragon Slaying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just when the two sides looked at each other and the atmosphere was tense, roar. A dragon chant broke the atmosphere of the scene and spread throughout the battlefield of life and death. Who is so brave to beat Xiaolong? Everyone in the battlefield of life and death was shocked, and they all looked in the same direction. In the battlefield of life and death, you need to hunt monsters to get points, and among these monsters there are two dragons, one big and one small. The big one is a real dragon, and the small one is a flood dragon. Since the establishment of the battlefield of life and death, they have been locked in this space. Killing them can not only get a lot of points, but also get dragon balls and other treasures on them. It's just that no one has been able to defeat them in 100 years, even in the last life and death knockout competition. No one can kill them. The last life and death knockout match was called an epic duel, and the Emperor of the Six Paths even conferred 2 holy suns at once afterwards, which shows how high the gold content of the last session was. But even in the life and death knockout contest that gave birth to the 2 holy suns, they were still defeated in front of Xiaolong, let alone provoking the strongest dragon. Who is so brave? Qin Feng also looked in the direction of Xiaolong, and he could vaguely hear continuous roaring. The voice is very mixed, it seems to be fighting in groups. Yulan frowned and murmured, stepped on the flying sword decisively and drove towards Xiaolong. After thinking about it, now is not the time to confront Qin Feng. Today is the second day of the life and death knockout match. If you fight with Qin Feng and you lose both, wouldn't it be a waste of money for others? It's better to go to Xiaolong's location first, and if he can get the head, he will send it. Especially the dragon balls, which are extremely rare treasures. If they are fused together, their strength will definitely be improved. There were many people who had the same idea as Yulan, and they all stopped fighting in their hands and rushed towards the direction where Xiaolong was. Quick, let's go. Qin Feng didn't intend to join in the fun, and led Qian Jun to walk in the opposite direction. Okay, boss. Qian Jun was very aware of being a younger brother, and didn't ask where he was going, but just followed behind Qin Feng silently. Who finally left. The people around took a deep breath, and they were glad that Qin Feng had forgotten them. Available in the next second, 9 sword lights came quickly, causing screams to resound from the scene. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for crushing 121 eggs and obtaining 121,000 villain points. He hasn't forgotten yet. The audience outside couldn't help shivering, telling themselves not to offend Qin Feng. He never held grudges, he avenged them on the spot. At this time, the location of Xiaolong, in front of a cave, Feng Chang watched calmly with smoky makeup on, and saw a group of candidates frantically attacking the 50-meter-long dragon. Different from those who work together to push the boss, the eyes of this group of candidates are dull, like walking corpses. Even if they are injured by Xiaolong, they will continue to rush without hesitation. Even if they want to die, they will explode beside Xiaolong. How is this going? The candidates who came from all around were full of vigilance, and they had a bad premonition in their hearts. Come on. A demonic smile appeared on the corner of Feng Chang's mouth, and an extremely evil Buddha appeared behind him. When the Buddha spoke slowly, an extremely strange Sanskrit sound resounded from the sky and the earth. It's the Buddha's magic voice. Someone immediately covered their ears, and retreated quickly with a face full of horror. This is an extremely powerful mental attack. If the willpower is not firm, you will be bewitched by it and become a walking dead without thinking. It's just that they obviously underestimated the horror behind the blackening, and their will was soon invaded by the Buddha's magic voice, and their eyes gradually became dull, and they were about to be completely controlled. Only Yulan, relying on the halo of the chosen daughter, can barely resist the invasion of the Buddha's magic voice. Who is this person? Yulan really couldn't figure out how there could be such a monster in the life and death knockout round. Feng Chang grabbed an enslaved man, opened his mouth and bit his neck fiercely, frantically sucking the life force of the man to heal his injury. The scene was extremely bloody. After a while of trembling, the man was completely silent. This guy has completely become a demon. The audience on the sidelines watched with hairs on end, frightened by Feng Chang's methods. Although Feng Chang didn't perform very well in the life and death knockout rounds, and was always tricked by Qin Lao Lu in various ways, the scene where he comprehended the true meaning of Buddhas and demons is vivid in his memory, and he is definitely a peerless arrogance rarely seen in ancient times. They really couldn't believe how terrible disaster this kind of arrogance would bring to the whole ancient times. Quick, quick, quick recovery. Feng Chang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were full of madness. As long as he kills the dragon and gets the Dragon Ball again, his strength will definitely rise to a higher level in a short time. At that time, he will enslave more people and let Qin Feng feel his pain. At this time, just when Feng Chang used the Buddha's magic sound to enslave the candidates to output crazily to Jiaolong, Qin Feng led 1,000 troops to a cliff. There was a huge natural cave above, and there were white bones, monsters, and humans below. "Boss, what are we doing here?" Qian Jun couldn't help shivering, feeling that there was something wrong with the boss's appointment. Now everyone went to watch the dragon being slaughtered, and wanted to see if they could get a share of it, but he was lucky enough to bring him to the place where the dragon was. That's right. It is the true dragon with the highest points in the battlefield of life and death. Originally, Qin Feng also wanted to go to Jiaolong, but when he thought about how the Dragon Balls of Jiaolong could compare with the Dragon Balls of real dragons, in addition, everyone's eyes are now attracted by the dragon, so he can use all his firepower to deal with the real dragon, and he doesn't have to worry about being taken away by others after slaying the dragon. Confucius said, "You don't talk about strange powers." Qin Feng gave Qian Jun a faint look. Qian Jun was full of doubts. "What do you mean?" "My rabbit knows." Xiaobai in Qin Feng's arms regained some strength, and said with a serious face, "Using strange force to beat the person who asked the question until he lost his mind means that you asked too many unnecessary questions." "Excessive?" "Boss, do you want to slay a dragon?" Qian Jun asked tentatively. "What did you say?" Qin Feng twisted his neck a few times, and began to do warm-up exercises to get ready to go. "I really want to slay a dragon." Qian Jun felt dizzy for a while, thinking that the boss must be crazy. The big dragon has the strength of the 5th level of Tao, and it is a rare dragon among the monsters. It is many times stronger than the peerless Tianjiao of the same level as the human race. Even if Qin Feng's talent is so terrifying, wouldn't it be a bit of a fluke to want to kill him with a first-level Lingwu cultivation? At this time, the camera was given to Qin Feng again. Everyone agreed that this child drank fake wine, and it was absolutely because of drinking fake wine that his brain was ruined. Chapter 66. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Slaying the Dragon. The Emperor of the Six Paths and other big bosses also exclaimed, feeling that Qin Feng is really too arrogant, not to mention that he just broke through the first level of Lingwu. Even if he entered the 9th level of Tao, he might not dare to provoke the big dragon. This is the real dragon race, and his innate advantages are much stronger than the human race. Historically, only the dragon race leapfrogged to challenge the human race, and very few human races challenge the dragon race. Does he still have cards? "Don't look at me, I don't understand anything." Luna spread her hands innocently. She really doesn't know Qin Feng now. She has lived with Qin Feng for 7 years. She thought he was just consolidating his own foundation in the past 7 years. She also agrees with this, thinking that cultivators are not fighting for the present, but for the future. Let Qin Feng participate in the life and death knockout competition this time, just to let him learn a lot, but unexpectedly let him teach himself a lesson. It's okay to have such a perverted foundation, and quietly raise the sword intent to the 3rd level. Correct. There is also the sky-domineering body mentioned by the Emperor of the Six Paths. I don't know if it is true. If it is true, this kid is really a big liar and a pervert. Do not know. The Emperor of the Six Paths looked at Qin Feng in the projection. I really like Qin Feng's talent, but the rules are the rules. If he doesn't voluntarily abstain, he won't be able to release him. At this time, where Jiaolong was located, the sound of explosions continued. Art is explosion. There was a look of madness on Feng Chang's face, and he saw that Jiaolong was crazily output by a personal bomb. The scales on his body kept falling off, and the blood fell like raindrops, but Feng Chang was still dissatisfied with this, and used the Buddha's magic sound to enslave more people who came to watch the battle. This guy is too cruel. That the audience outside the arena was full of anger and had zero tolerance for demon cultivators. They can no longer be regarded as human beings. They have long lost their reverence for life. Human life is not even an ant in their eyes. not to mention that he is still a disciple of the Son of Heaven of Daxiao, and he is enslaved by the people of their Inuit dynasty. Feng Chang. A look of shock appeared on Princess Nanfeng's face. She couldn't believe Feng Chang would become like this. There are two extremes with the well-educated and gentle Mr. Pianpian in her mind. At this time, Feng Chang is selfish and self-interested, and will do anything to achieve his goals. The old man of the protection mission slowly said, obsession is to release the suppressed desires in people's hearts, that is to say, Feng Chang's elegance before was just pretending, but in fact, he is such a selfish, self-interested villain deep in his heart. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Princess Nanfeng shook her head again and again. She didn't believe Feng Chang was such a person at all. In her mind, Feng Chang is the most perfect partner. His overall view is shocking. He can compose ancient quatrains at will, and can easily resolve no matter how difficult the situation is. What's more, the things he produced are unprecedented. He should be the kind of person who is selfless and generous. How could he be a selfish villain? Ugh! The old man sighed helplessly and said nothing more. On the other side, Qin Feng has finished warming up, and after handing over Xiaobai to Qian Jun, he rushed into the cave at a very fast speed. Are you really going? Qian Jun was stunned, and his mind went blank. It's not that he has never seen someone who is not afraid of death, but this is the first time he has seen someone who is willing to die like Qin Feng. Found it. As soon as Qin Feng rushed into the cave, he decisively opened the double pupil, and he could clearly see a huge dragon's head in the cave. At this time, the dragon was sleeping leisurely, and he didn't think that anyone would dare to challenge it, even if it vaguely heard the screaming of the flood dragon just now. It didn't take it seriously at all. Every time the battlefield of life and death starts, there will always be a few passionate young people who feel that they are invincible in the world, and finally become the dinner of that little loach. Dalong's eyelids lifted slightly, as if he sensed someone coming in. Draw your sword. Almost at the moment when the dragon opened his eyes, Qin Feng pulled out the gloomy sword light from the scabbard. Clang. The high-pitched and crisp sword drawing was like piercing clouds and cracking stones, which shocked Dalong's mind. Not good. Dangerous. It's an old sixth who wants to sneak attack it. But before the dragon could react, Qin Feng's white-clothed snow-like figure flashed like lightning, rising lightly, like a startled bird, and the stunning sword light suddenly appeared in the cave. Draw the sword, withdraw the sword. The action is done in one go. Bang! A burst of bright red gushed out. Dalong felt that his eyes could not see, and a tingling pain spread from his left eye to his whole body. Roar! The pain caused the dragon to let out a piercing dragon roar that resounded throughout the world, and the blinding of its left eye made it go into berserk mode directly. The gravel in the cave was crazily knocked down, and hideous cracks continued to spread. No, the cave is about to collapse. Qin Feng rushed out of the cave quickly with treacherous steps. Boss! Qian Jun couldn't help exclaiming, seeing that Qin Feng was fine and relieved, but in the next second, my heart was raised again. Boom! The cave completely collapsed, and the cliff also collapsed. A huge black dragon with a length of nearly meters flew into the sky from the ruins. If you look carefully, you will find that the left eye of the dragon has turned into a bloody hole. Find it and tear it into pieces. Oh, Mother Rabbit, I'm so loud. Xiaobai hurriedly pulled off the long ears and blocked the ears that were almost deaf. Fuck, Qin Feng is really slaying dragons. The audience outside the stadium were all stunned, and their hearts could not be calm for a long time. They found out that Qin Feng was really fierce. The first level of Lingwu dared to challenge Dalong, and he also succeeded in stabbing him blind in one eye. This is something that has never happened since the establishment of the battlefield of life and death. Call your sister, call. Qin Feng didn't give Dalong a chance to breathe. He jumped in front of the dragon's head, and didn't wait for Dalong to say the beginning of revenge. He didn't talk about the use of martial arts. I saw a golden light flashing from his chest, and we could vaguely see the circulation of runes. Boom! Dalong was caught off guard, and was directly slapped on the face, and another bright red bloomed in the air. This time, Dalong was completely angry. He didn't expect that the sixth child would be so ignorant of martial arts, and when he came up, he hit his face with a big move, and directly broke his appearance. Haven't you heard that you don't hit your face when you hit a dragon? But before Dalong fought back, Qin Feng's pupils flashed purple again, the surrounding sky suddenly dimmed, and pairs of huge double pupil eyes emerged. It's the supernatural power of the double pupil. The audience outside the arena went completely crazy, and their hearts kept popping up. Why is it different from what teacher Ma Dugua said? Didn't it mean that Qin Feng has no energy to develop the supernatural power of double pupils? So what is it now? At the same time, they also found that compared with Qin Feng, they were living like dogs. At the age of 15, they have already comprehended the invincible sword heart, the third level of sword intent, the supreme bone and double pupil cultivation, and they have created 2 god-level exercises. On the other hand, at the age of 15, they can only hold 48 hands and show idiot smiles. Chapter 67 The Crazy Old Qin 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Too horrible. Since Qian Jun was in close contact, he could clearly feel the horror of those eyes in the sky, as if God was looking down on the ants on the ground. Scared, he hurriedly hugged Xiaobai, and stepped back to keep a safe distance. It's now, the divine light of yin and yang. Qin Feng's eyes glowed with a breathtaking purple light, and he didn't give Dalong any time to react. Call out, call out, call out. A pair of double pupils in the sky shot out rays of light, blasting on Dalong's body like lasers. Roar. The big dragon let out a painful dragon cry on the spot, and the sturdy dragon scales on his body were no longer strong at this moment. They were directly pierced by the yin and yang divine light with double pupils, and blood gushed out like a spring. But the big dragon is a big dragon after all, and the cultivation base of the 5th level of Taoism is not blown out, even if Qin Feng's yin and yang tu qi and divine light are terrifyingly lethal, but it couldn't cause fatal damage to it, but it inflamed the anger in its heart even more. Roar. The big dragon let out a shocking roar, and the only remaining Longan glared at Qin Feng angrily, as if to say, boy, you are finished, and it's time for me to perform next. It's just that Qin Feng didn't show any panic at all, instead a sinister smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Not good. He is a 6th child. Dalong was flustered by Qin Feng's laughter, and before he could react, he felt a sudden chill coming from behind him. I saw that the sky Excalibur split its 9 swords at some point, turning into beams of sword light and shooting towards its exhaust hole. Roar. Dalong's eyes widened and he let out a scream, experiencing what a world of flowers is like. Fuck, it's so shameless. The audience outside the stadium couldn't bear to look directly at it, and they had a new understanding of Qin Feng's lower limit. He doesn't care about black cats and white cats, as long as he can defeat Dalong, he dares to use even the most indiscriminate methods. Roar. There was another sad dragon chant in the distance, and then it lost its movement and regained its calm. The dragon was killed. The screen switched to just now, and under the crazy output of the human bomb, Jialong fell to the ground and couldn't get up again. Fang Chang quickly rushed to Jialong with an evil smile. No matter how the other party wailed and begged for mercy, he stretched out his ruthless iron hand and inserted it hard, digging out a pale yellow dragon ball from it. Dragon Ball of Flood Dragon. The audience outside the arena became restless on the spot, and their eyes were fixed on the dragon ball in Fang Chang's hand. Even the dragon ball is a rare treasure in the world, not to mention that other parts of the dragon ball are also rare treasures, especially Fang Chang's points are ranked number 1 in an instant. A disciple of the Son of Heaven in Daxia, who overwhelmed all the heroes in their Inuit dynasty, was ashamed to be thrown to his grandma's house. Now we'll see if Qin Feng can overwhelm Fang Chang. The nervous hearts of the audience outside the venue jumped to their throats, and Qin Feng also instantly changed from the shame of the Inuit dynasty to the only hope of the Inuit dynasty. As expected of the first dynasty in ancient times, Great Xia really produced a large number of talents. The Emperor of the 6 Paths' face became slightly solemn, and he could see that it was not the time for a showdown with the Great Xia royal family. Fang Chang is the leader of all parties who overwhelmed the Inuit dynasty. But Qin Feng is not from the Great Xia dynasty. He needs to face up to the Great Xia dynasty. But he can't underestimate himself. It looks like the dragon has been slaughtered. As soon as Qin Feng heard it, he knew that it was the voice of Jialong belching just now, and he knew that he had to speed up the speed of slaying the dragon, otherwise it would definitely attract other candidates to come to share a piece of the pie. Live or die depends on this move. Qin Feng tore up his shirt with a serious face, revealing a golden dragon tattoo, different from other people's dragon-shaped tattoos. His dragon-shaped tattoos seemed to come alive, walking around his body continuously, and he could hear bursts of dragon chant from it. What is this? The faces of everyone outside the arena were full of shock, as if they had never seen the world. At the same time, they really couldn't imagine that Qin Feng actually had a whole card at this time, and it was a whole card that was ranked after double pupil. Buddhist technique, that the Emperor of the Six Paths and other bigwigs were not calm on the spot. Judging from their cultivation base, they can tell at a glance that this is Buddhist Kung Fu, and they have reached the state of Dzogchen. What are you looking at me for? I really don't understand. Luna's face was full of innocence. As for the golden dragon-shaped tattoo on Qin Feng's body, she had seen it, but she really didn't know that it was a Buddhist Kung Fu created by him. Then what do you know? The gangsters from all sides were so angry that their teeth were itchy, and they wished they could step forward and gang up on Luna. When others meet Qin Feng's peerless talent, they wish they could offer him like a treasure, but she doesn't know much about it, no. When the life and death knockout competition is over, they must use the slogan of justice to rescue Qin Feng from her hands, lest a piece of high-quality uncut jade be ruined by someone. Dawei Tianlong, Daluo Dharma Mantra, Prajna Buddhas, Prajna Ba Ma Kong, the flying dragon is in the sky. After Qin Feng pinched out a burst of cool fingers, the dragon-shaped tattoo on his body flew out of his body, turning into a golden dragon no less than a black dragon. Roar. The two dragons, one gold and one black, howled at each other, and then began to fight together. Boom. The spiritual energy between the heaven and the earth was completely disturbed, and the dazzling light was like the 9-day Milky Way venting out, mighty and mighty. Two huge figures condensed out of it, and the powerful dragon's oppressive feeling spread out in an instant. It's just that Dalong endured Qin Feng's sky-cutting and drawing swordsmanship, heaven's robbery, and yin and yang divine light, and endured the destruction of the world of flowers by the 9 swords, and his combat power has dropped by more than 1 grade. On the other hand, Dawei Tianlong already has a damage bonus to monsters, and after absorbing the Buddha's relic, its power is even stronger, and it firmly suppresses the big dragon. You have lived a long life. The audience outside the arena was completely restless and couldn't believe their eyes. Qin Feng actually suppressed the great dragon of the 5th level of Tao with his 1st level of spiritual martial arts, not just slightly suppressed one end, but the opponent was so strong that he couldn't lift his head. Looking at the entire ancient history, no one has ever been able to do such a thing. Oh my God! Qianjun stared dumbfounded at the scene of 2 dragons fighting in the sky, and couldn't believe that the boss he had just worshipped was so awesome. It's like a heifer sitting on a flying sword. These 13 need to look up. I see you are still dead. Qin Feng felt that the continuous release of the ultimate move had almost hollowed out himself, and controlled the 9 swords of the sky to stir wildly in Dalong's body. Roar! Dalong's eyes widened and he put on a pain mask, and his huge body lost control and fell from the sky. It's now. Qin Feng hurriedly pinched out a finger, and controlled Dawei Tianlong to throw it towards the dragon. Success or failure is here. It's dragon meat beer tonight, and if you lose, it's Feng Chang's instruction. Boom, boom, boom. Dawei Tianlong swooped down and hit the ground, immediately set off a storm of energy. Countless roars sounded like a stormy sea in the void, rolling endlessly. Roar. Dalong let out a burping sound, as if he was accusing Qin Feng, the shameless 6th son. At the same time, it also exerted its last bit of strength and threw a dragon at Qin Feng angrily. What? Qin Feng's pupils shrank suddenly, and he had no strength to hide. Bang. Qin Feng was firmly hit by the tail of the dragon. The bones in his chest were instantly shattered, and the internal organs were also damaged to varying degrees. If Dalong hadn't been tortured into residual blood by him, and he had practiced Fortune Ju and Celestial Overlord body for 33 days, I'm afraid it would have ended immediately. Also echoed the old saying, you can sneak attack me countless times, but I only need to hit you once is enough. Chapter 68 Qin Feng, never waste a grain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boss. Qian Jun rushed up and caught Qin Feng, boom. Dalong's huge body fell from the air, and when he was dying, a tear flowed from the corner of his eye. It thought Qin Feng was just a shameless sixth son who didn't practice martial arts, but he didn't expect that this sixth son didn't follow the rules of the world. It didn't give it time to react at all, and as soon as it came up, all kinds of big moves were blasted in its face. And it didn't even show 1% of its ability before belching. It refuses to accept. Hang up. I'm fine, let's go. Qin Feng was already in a state of residual blood, and forced himself to go forward and put the dragon into the portable space, and told Qian Jun to take him out of here quickly, and the news of the killing of the dragon would spread, and it would be too late to leave if he wanted to leave up. Okay, boss. Holding the halberd, Qian Jun quickly left the scene with Qin Feng. At this time, the audience outside the arena was silent, and everyone froze in place. I thought it would be shocking enough for Feng Chang to slaughter the dragon, but who would have thought that Qin Feng, the first level of Lingwu, would have slaughtered the dragon in the battlefield of life and death in less than a few minutes. This world of great contest is really too strong. On the other side, Feng Chang was holding the dragon ball of Jiaolong and looked at it carefully with joy on his face. He began to fantasize in his mind that after defeating Qin Feng, it would be crazy to feed him a few hundred caddies of sows, making him feel his pain 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, but just when he couldn't let go of the Jiaolongzu, there was a sad dragon moaning in the distance, and he knew it was the sound of a real dragon hiccuping. Isn't it? Who slaughtered the dragon? Feng Chang's face was full of disbelief, and the dragon ball in his hand suddenly lost its fragrance. As if he had thought of something, he hurriedly took out a jade card and input spiritual power, only to see a projection of the scoreboard appeared. The number 1 that belonged to him suddenly changed to Qin Feng's name. Puff! Feng Chang's Dao heart was unstable, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. He didn't understand why Qin Feng was able to slay dragons, and he also didn't understand why this bitch Qin Feng always appeared in time to give him a stick whenever he was sure of winning. It feels like the two of them had some kind of karma in their previous life. In this life, there is him without me, and there is me without him. No, even if Qin Feng can slay the dragon, he must be seriously injured at this time. Feng Chang didn't believe that Qin Feng was invincible enough to kill the dragon unscathed. Now he must be seriously injured. As long as he is found, not only can he take revenge, but the real dragon's dragon ball will also belong to him. It was from this moment that Feng Chang completely fell into madness, started to use the Buddha's magic sound to enslave the candidates crazy, and led them to kill the dragon in a mighty way. What a terrifying monster! Yulan hid in a corner beside her, and didn't sit down on the ground until Feng Chang left. If she hadn't developed super willpower since she was a child, she might have been enslaved by Feng Chang's Buddha's magic voice just now. At the same time, Yulan was very thankful that he didn't provoke that monster Qin Feng. He was so fierce that he could slaughter the dragon. It was really terrifying. At this time, Qin Feng is healing in a cave. Although he was not slapped to death by the dragon's tail, it might take a night to fully recover. One night. Qian Jun was dumbfounded when he heard this, and called Qin Feng a pervert in his heart. Such a serious injury would have killed hundreds of times on other people, but he could recover in just one night. If someone had said this to him before, he would have scoffed and said it was impossible, but after seeing Qin Feng slaying the dragon, he felt that he had to learn to adapt. There are only things that others dare not think of, and there is nothing that the boss dare not do. It actually takes one night. Qin Feng was obviously dissatisfied with the result. If he hadn't broken through to the spiritual martial realm, he would have recovered within half an hour at most, but it's a pity that when he broke through to the spiritual martial realm, the density of his physical body changed. The 33-day good fortune art had not been updated in time, which caused his self-healing power to drop significantly. Qian Jun was stunned in place, howling like a groundhog in his heart. Nima. Listen to what people say. After recovering overnight, he still dislikes slowness. If this ability is spread, how many people will die of envy? Ding dong, congratulations to the host for successfully preventing the son of the chosen from pretending to be aggressive, and getting 5 villain points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for beating the chosen one. making him almost unstable, and gaining 10 villain points. Why is there only Feng Chang? Where's Yulan? Qin Feng scratched his chin and thought for a while, suspecting that Yulan had developed feelings of admiration for him. Wow! Xiaobai yawned, indicating that there was everything in the dream. Forget it, I'm the man she can't get. Qin Feng shook his head and didn't think about these things. He opened the system and checked that there were still 297 million villain points. After thinking for a while, he planned to spend 3 villain points to exchange for a month's 33 times the aura of understanding, and break through the day fortune art to the 4th heaven. The system suddenly said, the host can be exchanged for 1,000,000 times enlightenment aura, 10,000-fold comprehension halo. It can increase comprehension 10,000 times, and maintain the effect for 12 hours. Exchange price, 10 villain points. 10,000 times more comprehension. Qin Feng was immediately moved, and decisively chose to exchange. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for spending 10 villain points in exchange for 10,000 times the aura of understanding. Boom. Qin Feng only felt that there was a sudden thunder in his mind, and his whole body felt like a god, as if the whole world surrendered at his feet. What a wonderful feeling. Qin Feng was obsessed with this feeling and couldn't extricate himself from it. In his mind, he began to frantically deduce the 33-day fortune Ju, the 4th heaven, and even had the energy to deduce the yin and yang divine light with double pupils, and the heavenly robbery light with the supreme bone. Even the day sword art, heaven slashing sword art, and Doi Tianlong can take care of it. At this time, the audience outside the arena is waiting for Teacher Ma Dugua to come out and explain, but Teacher Ma has been forced into autism by Qin Feng, and no matter who invites him, he is unwilling to come forward again. Nima. If you don't play cards like this without common sense, you are simply bullying the elderly. The sun is rising. The examinee who was enslaved by Feng Chang was still looking for Qin Feng. Even the examinees who were not enslaved by Feng Chang were still in panic. For fear of being enslaved by Feng Zhang's Buddha's magic voice, they were frightened and hid everywhere, and they were so nervous that they would die at the slightest sign of trouble. It's Yulan. Yulan was also forced to hide around, but found that she couldn't hide at all. According to her estimation, Feng Chang had enslaved nearly tens of thousands of candidates at this time. After 2 days of bloody tests, one can imagine how powerful these tens of thousands of candidates are. Whoosh! Yulan heard a slight rubbing sound, and before she could react, she was shot in the back by a feathered arrow. No, the arrow is poisonous. Yulan's vision began to blur, and she struggled to find a cave, but as soon as she entered, she saw Qianjun stabbing her with a halberd. My life is over. Yulan closed her eyes unwillingly. She didn't expect to stick to this point in the end, but just a second before she lost consciousness, Qin Feng's humble voice sounded, "Wait a minute, Qin Feng, never waste a single grain." Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yes. Qianjun hurriedly stopped and left the cave wisely. No, is this kind of plot something that a villain like me can meet? At this time, Qin Feng felt that the time was over 10,000 times. He picked up a twig on the ground and poked it. He really couldn't believe that the chosen girl was delivered to his door like this. As a villain with extremely high professionalism, Qin Feng still turned on the double pupil to check without worrying. Fuck. Qin Feng couldn't help exhaling the fragrance, and found that it was indeed a big hole. I saw something terrifying sealed in Yulan's body, and after just one glance, a terrifying sense of oppression came back. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for triggering the optional task. 1. Lift up your pants and speak hard, and reward a god-level stick technique. 2. Kill the chosen daughter with 1 knife, and reward the artifact with a dragon-slaying sword. 3. Help the chosen girl to detoxify, and reward the body that is immune to all poisons. I found out from the system, you are really coquettish. Qin Feng rolled his eyes, indicating that he had no choice at all. He also wanted to lift his trousers and speak hard, and he wanted to kill the chosen daughter with 1 blow, but could he handle the terrifying thing sealed inside her without logging into the red-haired old monster? There is also the cheating reward. He practiced swords, what's the use of stick skills, what's the use of dragon-slaying swords, the only thing that is useful to him is his physique that is invulnerable to all poisons, and many more. If he remembered correctly, he should have remembered correctly that Yulan's mother was the Blue Devil, one of the four beauties in the ancient times, and an existence as famous as the moon god. Now that I have saved her daughter, I have to show it. For the sake of you having two possibilities to call me dad in the future, I'll help you detoxify. Qin Feng carried Yulan to a stone platform in the cave. According to the rules of Jianghu, it is not necessary to untie clothes to detoxify boys, but to detoxify girls must take off clothes. Rules are rules and cannot be changed because of him. In order to save traffic, words are omitted here. Fortunately, I have learned some medical skills in the past 7 years in Luna Palace. Although Qin Feng has only learned some superficial medical skills, it is enough to help Yulan detoxify. I saw that he took out a few silver needles from his portable space. The hands were delicate, the tentacles were smooth and elastic, which almost made his mind unstable, and he could only keep thinking about pineapple and jackfruit in his heart. Soon, Yulan's poison was detoxified by Qin Feng, and to prove that he helped Yulan detoxify, he also tattooed the words Qin Feng came here for a visit on her lower back. How about changing it to boss safe access? Just when Qin Feng was struggling with this, Yulan's body began to tremble violently. The skin as fat as jade seemed to be stained with a layer of crimson, the watery eyes were still closed, and the long eyelashes kept trembling, proving that she was awake. Don't get me wrong, I'm just using painless acupuncture to detoxify you. Qin Feng became a serious gentleman in seconds, and no one could find a single fault. Detoxify your sister. She was injured by an arrow in the shoulder. What does it mean to untie her belly band and tie her back? Yulan didn't speak, she just blushed and closed her eyes, feeling like she was deceiving her. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for taking advantage of the chosen daughter and getting 10 villain points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the task of choosing one of the three, and obtaining a physique that is invulnerable to all poisons. So there are 10 villain points. Qin Feng's eyes lit up immediately, as if he had found the buff for earning points, but before Qin Feng started to fight, the sound of Qianjun fighting with someone came from outside the cave. Why are you fat for? Qin Feng had to put down his needlework and go out to check what happened. Just after Qin Feng left, Yulan hurriedly opened her eyes and put on her clothes. Her little face was blushing and she was about to bleed. She didn't expect that she would be seen by this bad guy like Qin Feng, and the two had only met twice. Embarrassed, Yulan covered her flushed face. She was glad that there were no outsiders present, otherwise she would really lose face in the future, and could only find a place to hide in the ground to live. Come on. Xiaobai clicked his mouth on the side, turned his stomach and continued to sleep soundly. Outside the cave, Qianjun was fighting a strong and burly man. He was a full head taller than Qianjun. He looked like Li Kuei, the Black Whirlwind. He was holding a pair of giant hammers in each hand. He looked like a fighting man. Stop, I'm here to find Qin Feng. The burly man kept dodging, not intending to fight Qianjun. If you want to kill the boss, step over my corpse first. There was a sharp look in Qianjun's eyes, and a golden light glowed from the war halberd in his hand. Damn, you think I'm afraid of you? The burly man was also angry, holding a heavy hammer and preparing to fight. Stop it all. Qin Feng hurriedly stopped the two of them, feeling that they looked familiar. Young Master Qin, I finally found you. That when the burly man saw Qin Feng, he was so excited that he was incoherent. He threw away the giant hammer and hugged Qin Feng's thigh and cried, as if the kidnapped child finally found a home. Master Qin. Qin Feng's expression changed unknowingly. It has been a long time since he heard this name. When he was in the Qin family all called him Young Master Qin, Young Master, and Eldest Young Master, and they finally remembered who this person was. He is the son of the 13th chief of the Qin family, named Qin Wan, and his status is second only to the head of the Qin family, which means that this person was sent by the Qin family. Did something happen to the Qin family, or was he worried about sending someone to help him? Young Master Qin, I finally found you. so you can accept me. In the future, I will follow your lead. You let me go east, and I will never go west. Qin Wan casually made up Wanma's name, and looked up at Qin Feng with tears in his eyes, making Qin Feng feel his stomach churning violently. Brother. As far as you look like Li Kuei, stop being cute. Okay, can I accept it? Qin Feng didn't care what the Qin family arranged, he was really disgusted by the other party, hastily pinched out an immortal new seal and struck Wanma's forehead between his eyebrows, hoping that he would stay away from him quickly, since Wanma had no intention of resisting at all, and also believed that Qin Feng was his master. The immortal new seal was easily applied, and the 5 times the combat power was also superimposed. This. Kazuma's eyes widened in disbelief, as if he had never seen the world. He knew that this young master was the hope of the entire Qin family, but he didn't expect him to be so perverted that he could increase people's combat effectiveness by 5 times with just a raise of his hand. Ding dong, the seal of Xiannu has reached the upper limit, and the host can unlock the upper limit by improving his cultivation. This thing has an upper limit. Qin Feng felt very disappointed in his heart, and he still counted on this trick to recruit more younger brothers. It would be embarrassing to go out without bringing tens of thousands of people. Now that there is an upper limit, you can only take the elite route in the future. Fortunately, these 2 guys are not too weak. Qin Feng looked at the thousands of troops and thousands of horses, quite like Su Chu and Jian Wei. In other words, with these 2 guardians in the future, he can inherit the will of the Prime Minister openly. Tread. There was a sound of hurried footsteps, and many figures walked out of the dark night. Their eyes were dull, but they stared at Qin Feng firmly. No, boss, go. Wanma's expression changed suddenly, knowing that Feng Chang had come to find him. Afraid of what he will do, Qin Feng has comprehended the 4th heaven of the 33-day fortune art, and the injuries on his body have healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. There are also supreme bones, double pupils, sky-cutting and drawing swordsmanship, and day swordsmanship, so there is no need to be afraid of Feng Chang, the chosen son of heaven. Jie 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 Jie. Thinking of this, Qin Feng couldn't help but let out a villain's exclusive laugh, turned around and walked into the cave again. If Yulan didn't call him dad, he would let her call him dad. Boss, what's going on? Xianjun and Wanma looked at each other, and could only stay outside the cave honestly. Chapter 70 Don't Talk, Kiss Me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. Xianjun and Wanma made a decisive move, and they were madly outputting a group of enslaved candidates. Damn it, it's so fucking cool. Kazuma screamed in excitement, as the son of the eldest son of the Qin families, Taibao, he has extraordinary talent since he was a child, and even possessed supernatural power. Now, with the 5 times the combat power bonus bestowed by Qin Feng, he has experienced a whole new world. It's like a heifer sitting on a flying sword, so awesome that it flies. I saw him wielding a huge hammer with both hands, and every time he hammered down, the ground trembled violently, accompanied by several screams. The Qianjun on the opposite side is different from the violent aesthetics like Wanma. He takes the fierce route of opening and closing, sweeping out the war halberd in his hand, harvesting heads frantically. Compared with the fierce fighting outside the cave, the fighting inside the cave is also full of enthusiasm. Seeing that Yulan couldn't hide the shyness in her heart, she used the golden snake Ponzi hand to Qin Feng who came in, and Qin Feng who was opposite did not spoil her. First, he made a coquettish move, and then he made a counterattack. Bah, it was a teleportation. Hey, you changed your clothes. Qin Feng looked at the small red apron in his hand, which was different from the one he saw before he was healed. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for taking advantage of the chosen daughter and getting 10 villain points. You are shameless. Yulan had never seen such a hooligan before. Her little face was flushed with anger, and she couldn't say a word for a long time, and in the end she could only intensify her attack in a hurry. What? Qin Feng pretended to be punched and fell to the ground, as if I would never get up without a few million. Hey, don't pretend to be dead, I didn't use much force just now. Seeing that Qin Feng hadn't moved for a long time, Yulan picked up a branch and poked it. Qin Feng's life was not long, and he said weakly, I was seriously injured by Tulong today, and I spent a lot of energy to detoxify you just now, and now I got punched by you again. I'm afraid I won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Hey, don't scare me. Yulan panicked immediately, and hurried forward to help Qin Feng up. She didn't know if it was true that Qin Feng's detoxification cost vitality, but Qin Feng did indeed slay a dragon today. Slaying a dragon with his cultivation level of the first level of Lingwu is a miracle in itself, and it would be even more unreasonable if he didn't get injured. Where are you hurt? Yulan asked hastily. It was exactly as he thought. From Yulan's rescue yesterday, it can be seen that the chosen daughter has the heart of a virgin. Qin Feng disagreed with those remarks about killing the virgin first. He felt that it was a pity that the virgin had been killed, so he had to take advantage of it while it was still hot. Qin Feng rubbed against Yulan's arms, and asked affectionately, Do you believe in love at first sight? Yulan blushed, pretending to be calm and said, What time is it? Tell me where you hurt, so I can help you heal. Don't waste your efforts, I know my situation myself. Qin Feng took the opportunity to grab Yulan's delicate little hand, and said affectionately, I didn't believe in love at first sight before, but the moment I saw you, I denied my opinion. My heart fell for you, and I only beat for you from now on. Even if I die in your hands, I am willing. Yulan's face turned even redder, her heart beating wildly like a deer. She didn't understand why she was like this. With her beautiful face, she had heard many similar words before, but she could always maintain a state of calmness, but today she couldn't calm down. Could it be because he saved himself? Qin Feng stretched out his finger to Yulan Hong's lips, and said affectionately in his weakness, Don't talk, kiss me. Kiss me. Yulan obviously would not agree to such an excessive request, but when she saw that Qin Feng's life was not long, endless disappointment appeared in her eyes, and she remembered the scene where she was treated by Qin Feng just now, and the self-blame for hurting him. How about fulfilling his dying wish? Yulan still hadn't seen the dangers in the world, so she suppressed her daughter's shyness and comforted herself in her heart. Anyway, everything that should be seen and shouldn't be seen was seen. It's just a kiss, and you won't get pregnant. Now she's doing something good, touching a slut with love. Not far away, Xiaobai was nibbling carrots excitedly, staring straight at the two of them, only to see Yulan's blushing face, closed watery eyes, approaching Qin Feng's forehead a little bit, her long eyelashes trembling to prove her at this time. I was very restless. It's just that Qin Feng is not satisfied with a forehead kiss. What he wants is the kind of brushed kiss. Find the right opportunity, and attack suddenly, in order to save traffic. Words are omitted. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for taking advantage of the chosen daughter and getting 10 villain points. Ugh. Yulan's eyes widened suddenly, and finally realized that she had been fooled. He actually stuck out his tongue. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for taking advantage of the chosen daughter and getting 10 villain points. Yulan pushed Qin Feng away angrily, blushing and unable to say a word for a long time. You took the initiative. I am the victim. You took advantage of me, okay? Qin Feng, the villain, complained first, stood up, patted his butt and left. Yulan was so angry that she almost came to her aunt, saying that she had never seen such a brazen person. At this time it was dark outside the cave. Qian Jun and Wanma don't remember how many they killed, but the candidates who were enslaved by Fang Chang continued to kill them. Even if they had 5 times the combat strength bestowed by Qin Feng, they couldn't hold on any longer. Fuck, what's going on? The audience outside the venue saw the bloody scene as soon as they woke up. Different from the previous reincarnation rate, this year's reincarnation rate will definitely reach a new high. There are at least tens of thousands of people who were enslaved by Fang Chang to be human bombers and slaughter dragons. Now thousands of troops and thousands of horses have killed so much. This Fang Chang doesn't pay attention to my Inuit dynasty at all. That the big bosses of the Inuit dynasty had gloomy faces, wishing they could rush in and destroy Fang Chang on the spot. The Emperor of the Six Paths sat aside silently, as if he hadn't heard anything. The reason why he didn't suspend the life and death knockout competition was not only for the sake of fairness, but also to let Feng Chang enslave the candidates to his heart's content, so that the people of the entire Inue dynasty could completely hate the disciples of the great Xia dynasty. Only when the object of the people's hatred is highly unified can the people be willing to fight for him in future wars. As for the candidates who died after being enslaved, they were not arrogance. A real arrogance would not be fooled by Feng Chang's magic sound of Buddha. For example, Yulan was not enslaved, and these are not arrogance. No matter how many times they die, he will not feel bad. At this time, that a strange Sanskrit sound rang in the ears of Qianjun and Wanma. What happened? Feng Chang, who was hiding in the dark, was stunned, and found that the Buddha's magic voice was ineffective on the two of them, but it's not right. With the status of these two people, there is no reason to resist the Buddha's magic voice. Qianjun and Wanma were also puzzled, suspecting that it had something to do with Qin Feng's immortal slave seal, boom. Feng Chang didn't even bother to study these things, so he knocked down thousands of troops and 10,000 horses by himself. It's you. Qianjun and Wanma exclaimed. The person who came was the blackened Feng Chang. At this time, Feng Chang was wearing smoky makeup, surrounded by black air, and could feel a cold air from more than 10 meters away. Feng Chang refined the flood dragon ball, that the audience outside the venue became worried, wondering if Qin Feng could do it now. At the same time, they are looking forward to the final battle between number 1 and number 2 in the standings. For justice, for world peace, Qin Feng shouted the protagonist's slogan, and walked out of the cave with the light of righteousness.